Welcome to the Provo Municipal Council meeting. It is 5:30 p.m. on Tuesday. It was 5:45 p.m. Thank you for your patience. On Tuesday, May 17th, 2016, we are gathered in the City Center chambers at 351 West Center in Provo, Utah. This meeting is being broadcast live on YouTube, Provo's Channel 17, where it will also be available for on-demand viewing. The council requests that citizens help maintain the decorum of the meeting by turning off electronic devices, being respectful to the council and others, and refraining from applauding during the proceedings of the meeting. We'll begin with a roll call. Mr. Van Buren?
Kay Van Buren.
Gary Winterton.
George Stewart.
Kim Santiago?
Dave Sewell.
Dave Harding.
Dave Connect.
Brian Jones.
Cliff Strachan.
The opening prayer tonight will be given by Jeremy Pine, and that will be followed by the presentation of the flags, and the Pledge of Allegiance will be provided by Cub Scout Troop 43 from the Timp neighborhood, Max Sorensen.
Our gracious Father in heaven, we're indeed grateful to be gathered here together to discuss the matters of the city and invoke thy blessing and spirit to be upon us this night. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Will the audience please rise? Color guards, please present the colors. If you are in uniform, please salute. Others may have their hand over their heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Color guards, please retreat. The audience may be seated.
Thank you for the professional way you handled the Pledge of Allegiance. That's Scout Troop 43 from the Timp neighborhood. We appreciate you being here tonight. We'll now have a neighborhood spotlight by Shannon Bingham from the Timp neighborhood. She's the chair of that neighborhood.
Hi, I'm Shannon Bingham from the Timpanogos neighborhood, and I was really proud of our Cub Scout boys. I'm on the Cub Scout committee, and those are my scouts, so it was really nice to see them do that. In our neighborhood, we have a really exciting service project happening this Saturday, May 21st. It's really cool to see how all of this came together. We were fortunate to receive a matching grant from Provo City, and with that matching grant, we'll be installing 3 sprinkler systems in our neighborhood. And we have a group of about 250 to 300 people all coming to our little 11-block neighborhood. So they'll be doing yard maintenance, the sprinkler systems. We have 20 trees that we're planting. It's really neat to see how it's pulled all of our neighbors together and just everybody working on this project together. It's really cool. We're very grateful for the matching grant from the city that has allowed this project to happen. That's what's happening right now in our neighborhood. Thanks.
Ms. Bingham, thank you for your service as well. These activities don't happen by themselves. We know it takes a lot of planning and appreciate your efforts. on the part of your neighborhood and on behalf of the city. If you've had a chance to review the minutes, I'll look for, and actually, I did have a couple of corrections that I forgot to send earlier. But they're not really substantive. They're just fixes. Let's see, line on the April 19 minutes, line 121. I think you meant to, I guess this is substantive. I think it was 700 north, not 700 east. Was that corrected? 858. Oh, did I send those to you already? Okay, great. I forgot that. I didn't realize I'd sent them. Okay, so were there any other corrections to the minutes? If not, we'd look for a motion to approve the April 19 minutes, and I believe they're the April 26, 2016 minutes as well. Thank you, Mr. Connect. Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Van Buren. All in favor? Thank you. The voting is unanimous in the affirmative. We'll now have a presentation by Kena Jo Mathews regarding Habitat for Humanity.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity to present to you today. I just have a short presentation. We just wanted to give information about our neighborhood programs and what we've been doing in Provo, just so the council be aware of what we have available for the citizens here in Provo. So we'll just go on with the presentation. This is Eric Jorgensen. He's our neighborhood revitalization coordinator, and he will be handing out some flyers as well to you today. So just let me know if you have any questions. Should I just tell you, Ryan, to... So we're with Habitat for Humanity of Utah County. Oh, can I use this thing? Our mission statement is, seeking to put God's love into action, Habitat for Humanity of Utah County helps lift people, fosters hope, and unites diverse groups to improve the lives of individuals, families, and communities by building, renovating, and repairing homes. Just a little bit about Habitat. We were founded in 1991 by a group of people in the community that were concerned about substandard housing. We are an independent affiliate of Habitat International, and we are celebrating our 25th birthday this year. So it's kind of fun here in our community. Since our inception, we have finished 61 homes, providing 100 adults and 187 children with safe and affordable housing. We've also completed a number of critical home repair and beautification projects throughout Utah Valley. We're currently building a home in American Fork, and we're working on our first ever woman-build home. So the woman-build home is in Provo on 5th South and 500 West, and it will be built with at least 75% women. So we're excited about that. And then we're also working on a number of critical home repair projects throughout Utah County as well. We serve Utah County residents. They need to be employed or have a stable income source. For our homeownership program, we serve very low income. They earn 25 to 60% of the area median income. For our neighborhood revitalization programs, they need to make 0 to 80% of that. And they need to be living in some kind of substandard housing. So the programs that we have in Provo right now is, first, we provide safe and affordable homeownership and increased homeownership opportunities. So first of all, we do new construction and development. Currently, we are building 2 homes in Provo. The one will be woman build, and then September, the home next door will be blitz build. So we'll be building the home probably within a week as well. And then we also have some property on 6th East and 300 South. We developed a piece next door to that almost 10 years ago now, and we will be building 2 homes there as well. So it's our Brimhall Estates 2 project. And we also do purchase rehabilitation. The home up here is the Taylor home, which is in the Tip neighborhood. the George Taylor Jr. home. It's one we did about a year and a half ago where we renovated the home and sold it to a homeowner, a partner family. And so that was our fun project. But we also do purchase rehab where we want to buy older homes, renovate them, and sell them to our families. And we're currently looking for homes, so if you know of any, that would be great to let me know about. We also do critical home repair and beautification. We do critical home repair loans and grants, depending on the person's income, up to $5,000, sometimes more than that. This home was actually in the Mazer neighborhood. It was for a veteran that we worked on where we repaired the roof on his home. And so we have a bunch of money to be able to spend on that program. So if people are low income, living in a substandard situation where they need a critical home repair, Eric would love to talk to them about that. We have our neighborhood program, so we administer the neighborhood program for Provo Redevelopment. We have a number of fun things that we could do in that program. One of the things that we kind of did outside that program is we built the South Franklin Community Center with all of the partners, so that was kind of fun. But we do beautification projects, paint your heart out, brush with kindness projects. We also do crime prevention activities like police picnics. So we're really looking for neighborhoods in the CDBG eligible neighborhoods to bring us projects because we want to work with the neighbors to improve their neighborhoods. So that's another program that we have. We do our mobile tool library. This is available only in Provo, and it's what it says it is, a mobile tool library. We will bring the tools out to a neighborhood cleanup, and they can use the tools for free. And so we're always looking for people to rent those out or schedule that. It's free. We'll bring that out, and they can work with those in any of the neighborhoods in Provo, but especially the CDBG eligible ones. Yeah, we do have a project in Temp neighborhood this Saturday, and we're expecting to have about 200 volunteers come out and work on some projects in the Temp neighborhood with the mobile tool library. So that's kind of a fun thing. We also have a community garden. This is in our Tyree project, which is near DI, and we partner with Community Action and Provo Parks and Recreation on this community garden. As you see, the mayor actually was planting in the garden with his nice clothes on. So. And then we also do radon awareness, and I think you saw me here a few months ago passing out radon kits. So we are trying to get people aware of this deadly gas and encouraging them to mitigate their homes and test their homes. So that's what we're doing in the neighborhoods in Provo, and we just want to keep doing more. And if you have any suggestions, or we want to be a great partner with Provo and help them in their neighborhoods and revitalize, so let me know. Thank you. Any questions?
Mr. Connect?
So I love going to your store in Orem where you have used building materials, and you never know what you're going to find, and it's always at a good price.
Yes, so we have a restore. It's like a building material Lowe's or Home Depot, donation driven, and we love it, and we are now looking to relocate. So if you have any land in Provo, let me know.
I know you've reached out to in neighborhood meetings to groups. Is there a way for the average citizen to reach out to you if they want to get involved? How do they get in contact?
Yeah, so if they look on our website, it's just habitatuc.org. We have a whole page about revitalization, and so they can see what we're doing here. They can reach out to their neighborhood chair. We try to attend a lot of the neighborhood meetings, especially in CDBG eligible neighborhoods, and so we're always there as well, and they can discuss things with us there as well.
And there you have a list of events that they can get involved with on your site.
So about 85 to 90% of what we do is volunteer driven, so we're always looking for volunteers as well.
I've participated in a Paint Your Heart Out, and those are always fun. And there's another one coming up soon in the Joaquin neighborhood.
Yeah, and we're looking at doing one in Mazer as well. So
yeah, that's great.
So the one I believe in Joaquin is actually NeighborWorks this year.
NeighborWorks, yes.
Okay. Well, thank you for the great work that you do. I appreciate you coming and sharing this information. I know the city gets requests at times for volunteer efforts, and this is a great option for our citizens to get involved. So.
And we'd love to have the council come out anytime they want to build, swing a hammer. That'd be great. So. Well, thank you very much. Have a good day.
We'll now have a presentation for Employee of the Month of March 2016. This is Rylee Snelson with the Parks and Rec Department. And this will be introduced by Scott Henderson. He's our Director of Parks and Recreation.
Thank you again for this opportunity. At this point, could I have Rylee Snelson and his daughter Charlie come forward? I've never seen such a talented person hate the spotlight more, but Rylee is a super talent and is deserving of great recognition. I'm going to read this because the cues are critical to the timing of the fireworks afterwards. So, Rylee started as a seasonal parks laborer in 2005. He worked his way up to the park projects foreman in 2015. Rylee's current project is the new staircase at Lions Park. His work and contribution has allowed the city to fund this needed project with limited funds. His contribution to this project will save the city tens of thousands of dollars. Rylee, and especially shown in this project, is a leader in problem solving and creative thought, and I think that was a great place to show that. That stairway is going to connect kids to schools and neighborhoods together, so that staircase is going to accomplish a lot of great things. Rylee has been instrumental in many projects throughout the parks, including memorial park improvements and the new parking lot by the Pioneer Museum and Village. Rylee has an impressive and diverse resume in project management, and we get the benefit of that every single day. Rylee has been married to Kelly for almost 7 years. They have 2 daughters, Charlie and Jensen. Rylee loves to hunt and loves everything about the outdoors. He enjoys home construction projects and restoring all old cars. Rylee's career has been characterized by success when faced with challenges. Our status as a top-level department is due to dedicated talent like Rylee. He is truly the best of the best. And at this point, I'd like to present Rylee Snelson as Employee of the Month for Parks and Recreation. Looks like we're doing pictures afterwards since we have 2 of them.
The next presentation for Employee of the Month of April 2016 is Suelen Whetten, and this will be presented by Chief John King.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for inviting us here and letting us recognize one of our star employees, Suelen. I'm actually going to let Courtney Hughes, who's her direct supervisor, talk about some of the wonderful work that Suelen has done.
I'm so happy to be here about Suelen. I couldn't even be more happy. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about Suelen. Suelen began here with Provo City in 2006, part-time as a Spanish-speaking advocate for victims of crime. She left a couple years later to go work at our local women's shelter, but lucky for us, she returned again as a part-time Spanish-speaking victim advocate in 2014. Suelen has quickly built a reputation of being a kind and knowledgeable supporter in the Hispanic community in our area. Word travels really quick when you have someone as wonderful as Suelen to help that community. In October 2015, Suelen was promoted to a full-time position in the city. She's now working in our department with all victims of crime, no matter their language, but continues to be huge help in the Spanish-speaking arena in our department. Suelen graduated from Utah Valley University with a bachelor's degree in behavioral science with an emphasis in social work. She has successfully completed and graduated both our local rape crisis training and the Utah Victim Assistance Academy. For us, Suelen is the perfect example of what a skilled and passionate advocate should be for victims of crime. She's kind, she's caring, and she's extremely thorough. And she does it all at a pace that would exhaust most of us. It's actually exhausting to watch her work sometimes. She works harder than anyone I've ever met. She comes through the door each morning at nearly a run, and she never stops until it's time to leave for the day, often having to be reminded to take a break or stop for lunch. Suelen always goes the extra mile when working with survivors to make certain to offer every available resource. She's a fun addition to our team. She's outgoing with a quiet yet very sharp and witty wit. Suelen's married. Her husband Cliff is here tonight. She enjoys traveling, working out, and living a healthy lifestyle, and is recently taking up boxing. Scares me a little bit. She also has a very on-point fashion sense that we all envy very much in our office. Suelen has 2 children, very important here. She spoils them more than I think anyone ever spoils their own children, and that would be Chester and Bella, her 2 puppies, her husky and an Alaskan Malamute puppy. Congratulations, Suelen. We love ya.
Want me to invite your family up? Can we get pictures with the council? Where do you want to see? Just right up there. Right, 1, 2, 3. Great. And then I'll take pictures with Rylee with the council. Right, 1, 2, 3, and begin. Very good. Thank you.
I would like to take a moment to recognize the mayor is not with us tonight. His mother passed away, and so he's spending time with family, and we just want to send our deepest sympathy and concern for he and his family and Sue, and let them know that we're thinking about him. And we also excuse Mr. Parker tonight. So the public comment segment of this meeting is an opportunity for any person in attendance to comment on matters that do not appear as a public hearing on the agenda. Items not scheduled for public hearing are item number 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Please begin your comments by stating your name and city of residence. Should you not wish to speak, but instead to have your statement read aloud by the recorder, please provide her with a copy of that statement. The council and administration will not take any formal action on the matters that arise during public comment. Those with comments are invited to approach the podium. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. And we'll go to our first item of business, which is a resolution tentatively adopting a proposed budget for Provo City Corporation for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2016 and ending June 30th, 2017. This will be presented by Dustin Grabaugh, Budget Officer and Controller.
Thank you, members of the council. So we have proposed a a resolution tentatively adopting the proposed budget for Provo City Corporation for the fiscal year beginning July 1st and ending June 30th, 2017. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Other questions for Mr. Graybaugh?
Well, this is my first time around. And I tagged all my questions. I can't imagine it'd be appropriate to try to resolve those all before tentatively adopting the budget, but I look forward to working with you and others over the next couple of months.
Weeks, I think we have, by the 22nd of June, I believe is the date that, so we have an opportunity to change the budget and that the final adopted budget will be able to incorporate.
Okay.
The council sees fit.
So I look forward to working with you and others over the next few weeks to resolve some of these questions. But in the interest of putting out to the public a budget that we want them to know that we're considering, I appreciated that we had the 9 council priorities that were adopted earlier this year included to kind of give some context to the budget. And if we have that, I was hoping, perhaps we might format it a little bit, give some more background material for that, put it in context as well. So I threw together an example of what that might look like over the weekend, sent it out to a few on the council and some staff. So I don't know, is this the time to even, is this a question or is this a request to change it? So I don't know if now's the time to be talking about it. But anyway, just I guess to the rest of the council, this is something that I suggest we consider replacing page 11 with what we have up on the board on the screen. And then one other thing, and I can't imagine it wouldn't be for now, but the budget versus actual full-time positions, page 12. I think perhaps if we calculated them a little bit differently, it might be more helpful, particularly in the part-time positions. So that's something that maybe in the next couple of days we can, maybe the rest of the council wants to weigh in as well, but just maybe a different way of presenting that information to make it a little more useful to us.
I think it's possible the council has a report that might address some of those information more closely on some of the FTE analysis. So I think they touched briefly on it in the work session earlier today.
Okay.
And I think that the council staff has prepared some additional information. So we'd be happy to continue to talk about it, and I think that they've already prepared some stuff for your review.
Excellent, wonderful, that'll be helpful. Thank you.
Mr. Winterton?
No, nothing right now.
Oh, sorry.
We'll talk later. This is the point where we're just basically accepting this, and we've been working on it, and we really need to go to work on this and just acquaint ourselves and appreciate all the effort that's gone into this. This is quite a document.
Thank you.
Mr. Connect?
So I have a question. If we're going to adopt this tonight, and if we're going to actually put this page in place of what's there, I do like what Dave did here. So do we need a motion of any kind?
I think we would require a motion. We did run this by the Budget Committee, and they wondered why the Budget Committee had some questions about it, and one of the questions was the order had been changed of the priorities.
Alphabetical.
And felt like that was important to maintain the same order in the way that the council had that had fleshed out when we were doing the initial exercise. Priorities kind of came out 1 through 9, and zoning compliance was actually number 1. And so they thought that was actually helpful to have the, instead of having it by alphabetical order, which I think is what you were shooting for, was to have it in the order that we accepted them in originally.
Is that a motion?
That could be a motion.
Are we
Or
to
are
the
we-
point, are we to the
so-
point that we would be entertaining motions, or, I guess we don't, this isn't a public hearing, is that correct?
Well, if you're going to, this isn't a public hearing, Ryan, tonight?
No, it's not.
No. So really, we could have this discussion. Is this something that you wanted in this document so that the citizens could see?
Yeah, as part of the tentatively
tentative-
approved budget.
Tentatively adopted tentative
Tentatively.
budget.
Tentatively adopted proposed budget,
Budget, yeah.
tentative budget.
And I would prefer to have the priorities listed as they were originally accepted. And other than that, I like the improvements. I think it's an improvement. I don't know about the branding. I know that they'll have something to say about the branding so that it fits with the rest of the document. But
That it could be accommodated.
Mr. Stewart?
As a member of the Budget Committee, we discussed this, and I like the rewording, but I would like to maintain the original order because, as some citizen members of the Budget Committee said, it looked like this was the order that we had approved it in, that the priorities were from 1 to 9, and the last priority was increased zoning, and that's not what was intended originally.
So as far as formatting, I actually somewhat followed the mayor's letter that immediately precedes it. And then as for the order, I addressed that in the email that I sent out to the council members. And I'm fine with reordering it. I thought there might be some concern about reordering it. One of the reasons I did that, though, is I felt like when we adopted these priorities, it wasn't this is our first priority, this is our second priority, and so on. It was, these are the priorities that we were accepting. I believe it's been mentioned that the increased zoning compliance was not in the top 3 of any council member's personal list. Since it was on every single one, that's kind of why it rose to the top. And there's actually different ways to, if people have different ranked lists, there's different ways to order those when they all come together, and the different algorithms, and that can affect the ranking. But if the council feels that they'd rather keep it in order, I'm fine with that. I think the formatting is much more important than the order.
Are there other comments, Mr. Sewell?
Just a question, if we're ready to publish this, is this web page that's contemplated ready to go? Or if it's not, the link on the very bottom, I just thought we shouldn't publish something that had a link that wasn't working. And so if that's not ready, then I would just suggest taking that off.
I would take it off for now.
Mr. Harding?
So I think if we take it off now, then the tentatively approved budget won't have it for the duration of the time that we're asking the public to look at it. We do have a Google Doc that's already prepared, that's the priority sheets, which include the 9 that have been officially adopted. And I think, in the interim, until we get something maybe a little bit more polished, that link could just forward to the Google document. So it could be done tonight if necessary, and then if we wanted. I do think we need a good landing page for people that are looking for our priorities, and I think I'd suggest that we leave it on, and because since it's a link, we can update that and we can make it look good in the coming days. But even tonight, we can have it just directly go to the Google or the priority sheets that have already been prepared and are already online.
Is that something that staff could do?
I'm not certain when the IT folks will have that ready for us, but I think that if you want to just reference to check the city council priorities, maybe take out the specific thing, the specific HTTP reference. Just reference council's priorities, and we'll just get it put up on the council page.
Are there other comments?
Someone want to make a motion?
Sure. Are you prepared to make a motion?
Well, Dave,
Or is there more discussion on this?
it's your baby. You want to make a motion?
Well, I've already thrown out the proposal. I guess I don't know where the rest of the council kind of feels on and we've talked about a few different variations, so.
Original priority, as it was before, the list. I would go for that. Comments?
Just as a comment, we want the public to realize that this is a work in progress. And so I think what we throw up there, this looks good. We still reserve the option to fix it a little better, make it a little better. So I'll make the motion that we put it in. If the council would like to readjust the priorities, I would make that motion that we readjust the priorities to the 1 through 9 as they were stated in the original document, and then approve it. And then that'd be my motion. I believe that we should have discussion on that. I think David brings up a good point on how the things were, just make sure that we're really prioritizing the things. If people think this is a priority, then maybe we ought to have that discussion one more time and say, are these the actual priorities 1 through, or are these just 9 priorities that are important to the council? So I'm sorry I've talked so long, but do you get my motion? That we put this document in with the priorities stated as they were originally stated.
Without a link.
And the link, I would leave it in. That's my motion, to leave it in.
Is there a second? Mr. Sewell? Is there discussion on the motion? My only question is on the link, if it's going to link to something. I'd prefer that it link to something. and that's up to staff, really, to have it there if...
Dustin, how soon is this going to go out?
It would probably be tomorrow. We'd have to amend the PDF, re-upload the document. We could do it tomorrow, including this in the tentative budget document. But at the moment, it's on the website without this change.
I say put it up, and then we'll just ask the IT folks to get that link working as quick as possible. Okay? Yeah.
Okay.
That's good.
So, and included in that motion is to, are we just voting just on this being added to it? We're not voting on the adoption of the, yeah, okay. So is there any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? The voting is unanimous in the affirmative. Thank you. So are there other questions for Mr. Graybaugh? Are there other comments about the budget document?
Questions?
Mr. Sewell?
I have a question that relates to the proposed property tax increase. Some years ago, the council adopted a policy of essentially an inflation adjustment to the property tax, and I think last year may have been first year that we actually tried to do that, but it got me thinking that the number last year and the number this year weren't really closely tied to the inflation rate, and so I'm thinking as part of this process, we may want to specify that a little more closely, maybe tie it to some index, and within a certain range of the index or something like that, if we decided to go that route with the policy. So my question for you and for the finance department is, if we were to do that, what index would you recommend for that? The one I'm familiar with is the CPI-U, which I think is the all urban something, but I wasn't sure if...
I think there's a number of options we could use, excluding certain expenditure items, and there's probably a healthy discussion we could have around what would be the most accurate index to use. It's probably not appropriate to make that decision now, but certainly something we could explore in the near future.
Okay, that would be great. I guess that would be my request for the finance department, if you could maybe make a recommendation on that. I don't know if the council's going to go in that direction or not, but if we did, it would be nice to have your recommendation available as to an appropriate index for that.
Question.
Mr. Connect?
That's I think, appropriate request. It just made me think, if we did tie it to some inflation index, would that mean that the maximum amount that we could raise it would be that fixed amount, or whatever is called for by inflation? Or would it leave the option, based on the needs of the city, to actually raise it higher than that inflation index calls for?
Well, what I was thinking, I think the council always has the option to set it at whatever they want, or approve what the administration recommends. But the question that kept coming to my mind is, it seems like in the last 2 years, we're trying to tie it to specific objectives, like hiring, this set of people, and how much money does that take? So then we come up with a percentage increase based on that. And it seemed that the thing that concerned me about that, I mean, that's obviously a valid way to do it, but you can always come up with a lot of things that you'd like to do, and so that it just seems like it's kind of arbitrary. And so I just wanted to explore with the council whether we should come at that from the other direction, and say, barring some unusual circumstances, is sort of our default policy for how to handle that inflation adjustment. So anyway.
Mr. Harding?
I think that's a very important policy question. I look forward to having that further with the council. I do think that the way that it was expressed 5 years ago was, it just kind of became an intent. We were signaling to the public that, we had gone at that point 20 years without an adjustment, which meant that our buying power was diminishing over those 20 years. And I think some of the rate adjustments that we're doing now, and some of the increases and the difficulties we're having now is a result of letting those 20 years go by, and letting inflation erode our purchasing power. So I think it was more of just a signaling to the public that this is going to be our new default, is going to be increasing it roughly with the rate of inflation. And whether that's, I think, even if that's the baseline, I think there may be some years where we need to increase it more. And I hope there's some years that we say, oh, well, even though inflation's gone up, we found some more efficiencies, we're going to be able to bring it down. So I'd almost hate to say that this is what we're going to do every time, regardless of need. But I think it's important to express to the residents that, we take this fiscal responsibility seriously, and we're not going to allow our services to become unsustainable because our revenues are eroding.
If I could,
Mr. Jones?
and I apologize, 'cause I think this is a little bit, I don't want to take us too far down this road, since it's not actually the topic of the agenda item. But since I'm not on the budget committee, let me provide one little piece of background to Mr. Sewell's comment, which is that I think part of the reason why the approach over the past 2 times has been what you just described is because when there was truth in taxation hearings 5 years ago, And the basis for the explanation of that truth in taxation hearing was to keep up with inflation. The question that all the citizens asked was, well, what are you going to spend it for? I think you raise a very valid policy question, but I think there's a balancing test between having a rational basis for what the increase is tied to, and also together with that, explaining what it's going to be used for in order for the citizens to understand what's being proposed.
We had the same discussion in Budget Committee, so it's come up a few times. Are there any questions for Mr. Graybaugh before we look to tentatively adopt the budget? Seeing none, would look for a motion.
Well, well, I could make my comment after the motion too, so go ahead.
Mr. Winterton?
I'll make a motion that we accept the resolution to tentatively adopt the proposed budget for Provo City Corporation for the fiscal year July 1, 2016 and ending June 30th, 2017.
Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Harding. And discussion?
So I'm not sure if this is the right place, but I just kind of wanted to signal something I was hoping that we would look at during the next few weeks as we talk about the budget. And I actually had a question or a proposal for Mr. Decker on that. Could I ask him to come up?
Sure. Mr. Decker?
So I just want to throw this out there. Right now, this is just my thinking on it. I'm not sure how many other council members would want to see this, but I was hoping, I'm thinking about the utility rate increases. You know, we had a pretty hefty one last year, and we had the plan for the 5-year plan, and
Right.
I think it was totaling about 74% over the 5 years on average. And I was just wondering if your department might be able to prepare a Plan B, which would it be possible to spread that out just a bit? So instead of 5 years, maybe let's say 7 years, so that the maximum increase was a little bit lower. Just some of our citizens, it's kind of hard to adapt to that. And I don't know if we need to see if there's other council members that would like to see that option, but I don't think we need to commit to anything, but I was hoping that maybe you could come back with a report that would say if we were to do that and smooth that out over a couple more years, what would the impact be? Would we be delaying any critical projects past the point where they were really needed? Or any health or safety impacts. Does that make sense?
It does. I'd be happy to prepare that, especially if there's other council members that are interested in seeing that. Some of the presentations that we have done in work session, particularly in relative to the treatment plant, we kind of started down that discussion already. So I can tell you the critical nature is going to be delaying CIP projects. And probably at the wastewater treatment plant, that's where it's going to be impacted. And there are some components at the treatment plant relative to state regulations that may play also into that decision. We kind of alluded to items, state regulations regarding nitrates and phosphorus that are coming. And we've been told that they're going to be moved forward, but we're not hearing exact dates, and we've heard a little bit of indication from the state that they might be rolled back a tad, so that we can certainly prepare a report, and you can see those implications.
Okay, great. So let's call that option B, 7 years, and then also, if possible, a maximum increase, let's say of 10%. I think that could. With 2 more years, that would probably be doable.
Let me make sure that I understand. So are you talking about all rates, or are you talking specifically just in wastewater?
I was talking about the average of the four, the wastewater, sanitation, and stormwater. Because I think the percentage increases that I remember, I believe, were the average for all four. So lumped together.
I may need to sit down either with you or maybe the council budget committee and just make sure we're understanding exactly the percentage that you're focused on.
Okay, let's remove that. Let's just say with the 2 more years, just trying to spread it out as much as possible so that there isn't minimizing the biggest jump in any 1 year. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
So you're asking us, instead of a 5-year plan, basically to do a 7-year plan.
7-year plan, which would be, I guess, 6 more years now.
And extend it 2 more years.
Yeah, extended 2 more years.
We can do that.
Are there any other council members that would like to see that option? Because if I'm the only one, then it's not worth having him go to that work. But okay.
Just comments, I think we did do that some last year, didn't we, that looked to the extension and just the expression that I remember was concerns about extending some critical things that, and so if they're going to do the report again, I will look forward to seeing where we're at with those things and if those things are still critical.
Yeah, as I indicated, we have looked at this in the past, and some of the presentations that we've made start down that direction already, and it won't take much effort to put that report back together. We're happy to do it.
Thank you.
And with that, if I could make a request, we talk about the 4, and the percentages that are going up are quite alarming. If I could request that maybe instead of, or at least in addition to looking at what the average of the 4 are doing, add in energy, because they all come on the same bill, they all affect us, and I think if you look at the increase, including if you take a look at all 5, it may give a better picture of what our residents are going to feel rather than, and it may not be as alarming as it is.
I can't speak directly for Travis and the energy department, but I think he'd be willing to do that. We can get with our finance people and put a report together.
Thank you.
The energy increase is tied to the purchase of the new facility in West Valley, correct? So.
And I think you'll see similar implications in the public works utilities, again, related to specific CIP projects. But we can certainly put reports together that help you understand the critical needs for those increases.
And just to be clear, I'm not asking for the proposed energy rate changes to be modified at all. Just when we're looking at the impact on the resident, if we can average all those together, that's what I'm asking for.
I think what I'm hearing is you're trying to get an understanding of what the critical nature of those increases are helping to pay for, and how critical those items are, and if it's energy development or if it's CIP projects at the treatment plant, you want to know the specific CIP projects that they're paying for.
Thank you for clarifying, because that's not quite what I was getting at. What I'm looking for is, I think if we look at the rate increase for the 4 next year, I think it was probably scheduled to be like a 25% increase, which it is a big increase. What did it work out? $12.50 a month for an average homeowner, average resident, average household. So it's significant, but 25% sounds like a lot. But energy is part of our utilities, and if you, even with a 6% or 3% increase that's planned for energy, if you average all of those in, the average may drop to 10% increase because energy is such a large portion of our utilities. So I just sometimes the sound bites go out that Provo City's raising their utility rates 25%. Well, that's not the full picture. And so I just want to get the full picture out there.
Councilmember Harding, if I could interject, I think maybe the confusing here, what I'm taking from your request is I think your request is really probably for Dustin instead of for Mr. Decker.
True.
In a sense, I think what you're asking for is an analysis of the overall utility rate impact that you can see in one spreadsheet instead of having it be where you can see it in one place instead of analyzing public works utility rates separately from everything else.
And looking at the entire utility bill instead of just the public works utilities.
Correct. Thank you.
We can do that.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have a motion by Mr. Winterton to adopt the resolution to approve the resolution as written, and a second by Mr. Harding. And is there another comment?
Could we just clarify, instead of it as written, as amended, or just to make sure we're including the...
We already did that by,
Well, we did.
as amended then?
Yeah, so the resolution itself isn't being amended, but the exhibit to the resolution has been amended. So I think it's appropriate to say approving the resolution as amended to signal that we're including the previous change.
So moved.
Okay. All right. Do you have a comment?
I'm just re-seconding the
Oh, okay.
reapproved
Okay, thank you.
motion.
Is there any other discussion on the motion? Okay, those in favor? Thank you. So the voting is unanimous in the affirmative. The next item of business is a public hearing on a resolution approving the 2016-2017 Annual Action Plan, an update to the 2015 through 2019 five-year Consolidated Plan for submittal to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. This will be introduced by Mr. Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hello, everyone. So we were here a month ago with a proposed draft of the action plan, which also initiated a 30-day comment period for public to submit comments. There were several ways in which citizens could view the document. It was posted online. A copy was placed in the recorder's office. Another copy was placed in our office. And they were welcome to either come, call over the phone, or submit comments through email. We have not received any comments in any form. And so we are now here then to propose to adopt the action plan. Well, let me restate that. There were some comments made during the public hearing a month ago, and those have been included into the document. But other than that, there have been no further comments. So we're here to propose to adopt the action plan as it is by resolution, so that the mayor, so that we can send the applications to receive home and CDBG dollars to HUD that goes along with the action plan. Happy to answer any questions, if there are any.
Are there questions for Mr. Gonzalez? Okay, thank you. We will now open this for public comment. If you have a comment you'd like to make on this item, you could come to the podium. Please state your name and city of residence. Seeing none, we'll close the public comment portion of this item and bring it back to the council for discussion. Or a motion? Mr. Van Buren?
Make a motion to approve the resolution approving the annual action plan.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Connect. Those in favor? Thank you. The voting is unanimous in the affirmative. I call call for a motion to recess as the Municipal Council and reconvene as the Redevelopment Agency of Provo. Thank you, Mr. Harding. Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Stewart. All in favor? Thank you. The voting is unanimous in the affirmative.
A resolution tentatively adopting a proposed budget for the Redevelopment Agency of Provo City Corporation in the amount of $4,292,168 for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2016 and ending June 30th, 2017. Presented by Dustin Gabao, our budget officer. Dustin.
Council members, just as Chair Stewart mentioned, that this is a resolution proposing the tentative adoption of the tentative budget for the redevelopment agency, as included as an appendix in the tentative budget document listed on our website. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions? Yes.
Again, I don't know if now's the time to do it or after we tentatively adopt it, but I had a question on the spreadsheet, looking at the original budget for last year versus the adjusted budget. The expenditures went up $6 million, and so the net change in the fund balance is a negative, $5+ million, and so I was just curious why that was.
So the intent behind including both the original and the adjusted budget was to capture some of the intricacies in financial reporting that we're required to do. Now, the change from the original budget to the adopted budget is due to carryovers in liability. So there's a particular amount allocated to a project in the previous fiscal year, and in the new fiscal year, we only appropriate this marginal increase in money. So that's what the original budget number reflects, is the new money being allocated to redevelopment projects. And the adjusted budget reflects the original amount increased by the amount left over from the prior fiscal year. Now, the reason why the redevelopment agency is showing a negative is because of the relationship that the redevelopment agency has with their projects and the grants and Dan Gonzalez would have to get up, I think, to explain, or David Walter, to explain the finer points of it. But basically, as far as I understand it, and it is rather confusing to me even as a financial professional, that they have to expend and have the liabilities before they get reimbursed for them. And so we have a liability out there that they could spend more money than they have, but it kind of comes in as it goes out. And so it shows a greater liability than we have assets, only because they haven't yet expended the money that they will later be reimbursed for. So this is a potential opportunity where we've expressed a possibility in the adopted budget to change our budgeted revenues to reflect projections rather than the actual budgets. And that would have ramifications on fund balance in a lot of places that have their revenues. And I think that change might better communicate the true state of the fund balance in many of these locations, including the redevelopment agency, but across the city as a whole.
Thank you, because not only have I, but I've heard from a couple constituents when we try to sit down and look at this budget and say, what's going on here? It seems fairly alarming that, last year we spent $1.5 million, or we projected to spend $1.5 million for that line item, and now it's $5.5 million, and then next year we're proposing another $1.1 million. It's like,
You'll see the same thing if you look at last year's. There will be the same kind of juggling of projects, and as projects are completed, they'll fall off, but new ones will come on. And
okay.
And I don't know if David, if you have anything you want to add to it, or
we have to incur indebtedness in order to collect some tax increments, so that's one of the reasons why it kind of flows that way. And so you don't see some of the carry forwards don't necessarily come across, but projects that have been, money's been set aside in the past years, they get carried forward. Sometimes that doesn't fully reflect. But one of the issues is we do have to incur indebtedness to collect some tax increment.
So in the end, when we get the actual numbers, it will be back closer to the original budget rather than the adjusted budget. Okay, good enough for me.
Any other questions for Dustin? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the council for discussion. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a motion. Yes.
I move to approve the resolution as written.
Is there a second? If there's a second, Mr. Connect, all in favor? Voting has been unanimous. A resolution of the Governing Board of the Redevelopment Agency of Provo City Corporation approving the signature of a collateral assignment of the parking lot lease to Key Bank, a collateral assignment of the joint development agreement, and an accompanying Estoppel Certificate. Mr. Walters again.
Good evening, Chair Stewart and members of the Redevelopment Agency Board. The item before you tonight concerns 63 East, and the developer is currently in the process of obtaining permanent financing for this project and has submitted that to Key Bank. Key Bank has requested that the agency sign acknowledging the collateral assignment of the parking lease. You may remember that in order to help facilitate this project, we agreed to lease spaces in the Wells Fargo parking tower that we had helped construct and therefore had a block of spaces available. We leased those to the developer to make them available to the residents of 63 East. Additionally, there are some responsibilities under the joint development agreement that was signed in November of 2012 that Key Bank is asking for us to acknowledge that assignment to them as part of the collateral for the loan, for the permanent financing. So we're requesting that the agency board grant Chief Executive Officer or his designee the authority to sign these documents and resubmit them to Key Bank. Part of this process, the excuse me, the agency had a small equity position in this project and was eligible to receive some of the net income generated by the project over a period of years, or we had the option to take a $150,000 payout once the project was refinanced. And so in consulting with administration and with administrative services, staff felt that it was appropriate for us to request the $150,000 now that we could then have available to reprogram into other projects. So as part of this refinancing, the agency will receive some funding from this project, and I'm happy to report that 63 East is leased up, and they have the downstairs occupied with good time and roll with it ice cream. So that concludes staff's presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Yes, Mr. Connect.
Can you give us an idea of the range of, these are rented or were they sold?
Rented, they're rental units.
Got it.
41 units, and then there's 5,000 square feet of commercial space on the bottom.
And the range of the rents?
That I don't have at my fingertips, unfortunately, but I'd be happy to find that out. I know that's based on the square footage. Some of the apartments have 2 bedrooms, some are 1. I think there's even a few studio apartments in the mix as well. So,
Are some of them affordable or market rate?
I believe they're all market rate. Unlike the Cowboy Partners project at Liberty Plaza, this did not have tax credit financing associated with it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Yes, Mr. Winter.
Yeah, you mentioned obligations in the parking plaza. Do you happen to know what those obligations are that we still have those? All we're doing is shifting them to.
We're just making them available to a Key Bank on the off chance that Forge Development defaults on this loan.
So it's just the obligation of providing a stall. There's no.
Residents still have access to the parking, and the lease would not automatically terminate because Forge may have defaulted on the loan.
Any other questions? Thank you. Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the council for discussion. Any discussion? If not, I'm looking for a motion to approve. Mr. Connect,
Move to approve the resolution as written.
is there a second? Yes, Mr. Van Buren, second. All in favor? Looks like the voting's been unanimous. The resolution of the Governing Board of the Redevelopment Agency of Provo City Corporation consenting to the collateral assignment of tax increment financing documents and authorizing the Chief Administrative Officer to sign the accompanying Estoppel Certificate. Mr. Walters?
Mr. Chair, members of the agency board. This item concerns the Provo Town Center Mall. As you may recall, Brixton Capital recently acquired the remaining controlling interest in the mall from GGP. Part of that, we assigned, there is a tax increment obligation against this project that accrued to the owner, then initially with Price Development, then subsequently with GGP, and now that Brixton is owned it, the agency took action a month ago to transfer the tax increment flow to GGP. I'm sorry, to Brixton from GGP. Brixton is now in the process of obtaining a loan from Bank of America to continue acquiring some of the out parcels as well as doing some rehabilitation work on the mall itself, and has an asset of Provo Town Center Mall. Bank of America has requested that this tax increment financing be assigned to them as collateral for the loan that Brixton is in the process of obtaining. So if Brixton defaults on their loan with Bank of America would notify us, and then we would remit the tax increment to Bank of America directly instead of to Brixton Capital. It does not extend the time frame for the tax increment. It does not extend the amount of tax increment. This obligation, the promissory note that secures this, terminates in April of 2023, and that, any amount that's left over is deemed forgiven at that point. That concludes staff's presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any further questions? Seeing none, I'll bring back to the council for discussion. Any discussion? I'm looking for a motion then to approve. Mr. Sewell?
I move to approve the resolution of the governing board of the Redevelopment Agency of Provo City Corporation consenting to the collateral assignment of tax increment financing documents and authorizing the Chief Administrative Officer to sign the accompanying Estoppel Certificate.
Is there a second? Yes, Madam Chair. All in favor? Like the voting has been unanimous. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn as the Regional Agency of Provo.
So moved.
So moved by Madam Chair. Is there a second?
And this is a motion to reconvene as the Stormwater Special Service District, I believe.
Oh, that's right, and reconvene as Stormwater Special Services, excuse me. Is that okay in the motion, Madam Chair?
Pardon?
Reconvene as a Special Service District?
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Okay. Mr. Harding, second. All in favor? Voting is unanimous.
Item number 9 is a resolution tentatively adopting a proposed budget for the Provo Stormwater Special Service District in the amount of $4,196,475 for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2016, and ending June 30th, 2017. Dustin Graybaugh, our budget officer controller, will present this item.
Thank you, Councilor Santiago. The Stormwater Special Service District is likewise included in the tentative budget document as an appendix. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Councilor Harding.
Other questions for Mr. Graybaugh?
Same question as before, and I imagine same answer as before, so I think we're good.
Okay.
Are there other questions? Look for a motion.
So moved.
Thank you. Mr. Stewart, is there a second? So the motion is to approve the resolution?
Yes, a motion to approve the resolution adopting the proposed budget for the Provo City Stormwater Special Service District in the amount of $4,196,476 for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2016, and ending June 30th, 2017.
Was that a tentative approval?
Yeah, resolution tentatively adopting.
And that's for $4,196,475.
Didn't have our glasses on.
That's okay. So that's the motion by Mr. Stewart, second by Mr. Van Buren. All in favor? Thank you. That carries. The voting is unanimous in the affirmative. So we will now adjourn as the Stormwater Special Service District, or look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Van Buren. Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Sewell. All in favor? The voting is unanimous in the affirmative. Thank you. The next.
Can I move to reconvene as the Municipal Council?
Yes, please. Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Connect. All in favor? Voting is unanimous. Thank you. The next item of business is an ordinance amending Provo City Code Section 2.50.130, Executive Director of the Municipal Council, Assignment of Duties, to clarify language regarding the duties of the Executive Director of the Municipal Council. This item will be presented by Mr. Jones, our council attorney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, members of the council, we talked about this item at our last work session. It stemmed, just for any public who might be viewing, this change stemmed from a motion made by Mr. Connect some weeks ago to update the duties of the executive director to include a responsibility to coordinate an annual review of the priorities and implementation strategies of the general plan. That new duty is reflected in paragraph O of the ordinance that is in front of you. As the Rules Committee looked at this ordinance to implement that suggestion, we also did a general cleanup of the overall section. We removed some duplicative language, consolidated some paragraphs about staff supervision into one subparagraph, and just did some other things to just kind of tidy up the ordinance. Otherwise, the duties remain the same, and we've just revised the overall section for cleanup purposes.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. I think it's appropriate to ask our executive director how he feels about the changes.
Do I have a choice?
Maybe.
No, I'm fine
Yes,
with
you
it.
do.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there questions or comments? Discussion?
I
Hardy?
just make a comment. I appreciate the work that's gone into this. I do feel like it makes this section a lot clearer. It's a lot easier to understand and read it, and appreciate the good work that's been put into it.
Thank you. I too appreciate the committee and the work that's gone into this, and I also appreciate Mr. Connect. I think this all started with Mr. Connect when he realized that some of the action steps in the general plan were possibly overlooked, and so this is a way to make sure that those action steps are carried forward. So I appreciate your diligence in recognizing that. Mr. Strachan?
From my perspective, I appreciate the clarity that's in this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sewell?
Just one other comment. I think somewhere in the code, isn't there a reference to a duty of the council to review the general plan or the implementation?
I'm not sure if you'll find it in the code, but you will find it in Chapter 13 of the general plan.
Okay, so that's where it is. So this helps us fulfill that duty. Thank you.
Are there other comments? Look for a motion.
I move to approve the resolution as written.
Thank you, Mr. Connect. Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Harding.
I'm sorry, the ordinance.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Is there a second? Mr. Harding? Those in favor? The voting is unanimous in the affirmative. Thank you. The next item of business is an ordinance amending the Consolidated Fee Schedule with regard to the community development fees. Last year, the council created budget intent statements, and one of those intent statements is a is to complete an evaluation of all the fees listed in the Consolidated Fee Schedule within 3 years. To the extent feasible, the city would strive to have each service paid for by the beneficiaries of the service. As part of this process, the council has recently reviewed the community development fees, and a proposal is before us now to address the full cost recovery of some of those fees. And there was a column H somewhere. Were there others? Is this all of them? This is all that were in the column? Oh, okay. Let me scroll down. Okay. So there was an analysis done with Orem City and a desire to recover the full cost recovery, or full cost of what it costs the city to actually carry out these responsibilities, but not to exceed what our sister city was doing. So that's reflected in the prices or the fee. All of these fees, actually, none of them exceed what our sister city is charging. So are there comments about this item?
Madam Chair, I would just add, everybody's probably seen this, but in accordance with the motion made in the last work session, this version of the ordinance contains updated language putting it into effect on July 1st. It doesn't go into effect until then.
Okay, thank you.
Just for the benefit of the public who, if anyone is listening and has not been following this item previously, we have studied this extensively. I think this one has been going on for months at this point. And we have determined that the cost of providing these services exceeds the fees that are being charged. We've also studied and looking at more than just our sister city, but other cities around Utah, and our fees on these are lower than the average. And so, it's a difficult decision anytime to raise fees, but I think that we have done our due diligence on this, and I do think that these are reasonable fees, and that it's in the best interest of the city to set them as such.
Thank you. Mr. Connect?
I would just add that even though we looked to our sister city to make sure that we didn't charge more than Orem, we are not charging as much as it really costs, even with this raise. So it's always debatable about what's the right amount, but we chose not to go to 100% on, I think, all of them. I think we're under 100%. And we do want to generally, as a general rule, charge what a service costs. But we also, in some cases, make the exceptions so that we are competitive with other communities, and I think that's what we're looking at here.
Thank you. Are there other comments? This is not something that requires, Mr. Stewart?
I was going to make a motion.
Oh, let me just say this thing then, this one thing. This is not an item that was scheduled for public hearing, but seeing that there are members of the community in the audience, if you came to speak to this item, could you raise your hand if you're interested in speaking to this item? Okay, thank you. Just thought I would ask. Appreciate citizen engagement, so just didn't want to miss an opportunity. Mr. Stewart.
I make a motion that we approve an ordinance amending the Consolidated Fee Schedule with regard to community development fees.
Thank you. Is there a second? Oh, thank you, Mr. Connect. And any discussion? Those in favor? Thank you. The voting is unanimous in the affirmative. So I neglected to mention one item during the budget discussion, on our first item, when we adopted the tentative budget. The Budget Committee did give a recommendation. There was, part of that motion was to refer the budget to the Budget Committee, and we did have 2 meetings, and we did have there was a recommendation from the Budget Committee, and I neglected to read that into the minutes. And so I don't know if we can reopen that item and read this into the minutes. This was the, do we need to have a motion to do that, to reopen that?
No, to include it in the minutes just reflects that it was said in the meeting. So if you just want to read it into the record right now, I think that takes care of it.
Okay. So this is, the recommendation was, the Budget Committee recommends that the council adopt the tentative budget with the caveat that the council look for reductions to expenses and subsidies that would alleviate the need for a property tax increase this year. Just wanted to make sure that that was something that the council considers as we look through the budget document this year, this fiscal year. So.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Van Buren. All in favor? The voting is unanimous in the affirmative. We stand adjourned. No, we should though.
Controversial stuff is going. I know the